Listen to the conversation between Martin and his doctor and answer questions 1 to 6.
Good morning.
Morning.
Come in. Sit down. Now, you're a new patient, aren't you?
Yes, that's right.
OK, so I'd better get some basic details down first. Right, we'll start with your name.
Martin Hansen.
Do you spell that S-O-N or S-E-N?
H-A-N-S-E-N.
OK. And you are a first-year student?
Yes, I am.
Studying?
Medicine, actually.
Good choice. I hope you enjoy it.
Thanks.
And your address?
Yes, it's 13 Chatham Street.
That's C-H-A-T-H-A-M, isn't it?
That's right.
And your phone number?
01734 24655.
017342645.
No, you got the 6 and the 4 the wrong way round. It's 24655.
Sorry. Right. And when were you born?
On the 15th of June, 1986.
Here in New Zealand?
Yes.
Fine. Now, let's get some of your medical background. Have you ever had any serious illnesses or accidents?
A broken leg I got playing football when I was 17. I was in the school team.
What position did you play in?
I was the goalkeeper.
A lot of standing around then.
Yes, when we were winning.
Right. Anything else?
No, apart from that, nothing.
And have you had any operations of any kind?
No, the only time I've been to hospital was when I broke my leg.
Fine. Any allergies?
Yes, to dust and cats.
What form does that take? How do you react?
They both make me sneeze a bit. Nothing else.
So you're not allergic to antibiotics like penicillin, as far as you know?
I don't think so.
Before the conversation continues, you have some time to look at questions 7 to 10. Now listen to the next part of the conversation and answer questions 7 to 10.
Good. So, what's your problem?
Well, recently I've been getting this pain here, just behind my eyes and in my forehead.
I see. Have you felt sick or dizzy at all, or vomited?
No, not at all. Though the pain is pretty intense sometimes.
And how's your health generally? Have you had any colds or flu recently?
I had a cold a couple of weeks ago, but that's gone. It was only a sniffle, really.
Good. Are you studying a lot? Are you getting enough sleep?
Yes, I'm studying quite a lot. I've got some exams coming up in December, but I'm making sure to sleep plenty.
What time do you go to bed?
Usually around 11. I sleep about 8.5 hours, and I'm up about 7:30, so I have time to go jogging for half an hour before going into the university at 9.
Very healthy. And has this pain kept you awake or stopped you jogging?
Yes, it makes getting to sleep harder. It's much worse at the end of the day. I hardly notice it in the morning.
What about food? Are you eating properly?
I think so. My girlfriend cooks my meals.
Right. And you wear glasses?
No.
Uh-huh. When did you last visit an optician?
I don't remember. When I was a child, I suppose.
OK. Well, I think first you should get that done again, just to make sure it's not the cause. In the meantime, take an aspirin or two when you're in pain, and come and see me again in a week. Ask the receptionist to give you an appointment with the optician. He is here on Tuesday and Thursday mornings.
Now turn to Section 2. Test 1. Section 2. You will hear a trainer giving a talk to people who want to learn outdoor survival skills. First, you have some time to look at questions 11 to 16. Now listen and answer questions 11 to 16.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our outdoor survival program. As you know, this week you'll be learning some of the basic information and skills you need to look after yourself independently in the outdoors. These first 2 days will be based here in the classroom, and then we'll be taking a camping trip to put into practice some of the things you've learned. I'm going to start off with the topic of food. And to start with, I'll describe just 2 methods which we'll be putting into practice at our camp, and which make use of natural resources, the steam pit and the bamboo pot. I've got 2 posters here to make things clearer, and I'll start with the steam pit here. To make this, you'll need some dry sticks, some grass, some loose earth, and some stones. And for this week only, some matches. The first thing you do is to dig a shallow pit in the place you've chosen to do your cooking. Let's say about 25 centimeters deep and 30 centimeters wide. Your sticks have to be a bit wider than the pit because you have to put a line of them along the top from one end of the pit to the other. Before setting light to these, you take some large stones and arrange them on top. Then you start the fire and wait till the wooden platform burns through and the stones fall into the pit. At this point, brush away any pieces of hot ash from the stones. You can use a handful of grass, and then take another stick and push it down into the center of the pit, between the stones. After that, you cover the whole pit with a thick layer of grass. And then you can put your food on it, wrapped in more pieces of grass, like parcels. Finally, cover the whole thing with earth. You have to pat it firmly to seal the pit. Then all you have to do is take the stick out and pour a bit of water into the opening that it leaves. It should take about 4 hours for your food to cook, as it cooks slowly in the steam that's created inside the pit.
Now you have some time to look at questions 17 to 20. Now listen and answer questions 17 to 20.
So, simple but effective. The other method you're going to practice this week is the bamboo oven. Now, the steam pit is ideal in certain conditions because the heat is below ground level. For example, if there's a strong wind and you're afraid a fire might spread. But when it's safe to have an open fire, you can use the bamboo oven method. You get a length of bamboo, which, as you probably know, is hollow and consists of a number of individual sections with a wall in between. You use a sharp stick to make a hole in each of the dividing walls apart from the end one. Then you lean the bamboo over a fire, with the top propped up by a forked stick and the bottom sitting on the ground. You pour enough water in the top to fill the bottom section, and then light a fire underneath that section to heat the water. Then you put your food inside the top section, and the steam coming up the bamboo through the holes you made cooks it. I'm going to move on now to food itself and talk about some of the wild plants you might cook. I'm going to begin with fungi. That's mushrooms and toadstools. I'm sure you'll be aware that some of these are edible and they're delicious, but some of them are highly poisonous. Now, whether they're poisonous or not, all fungi that you find in the wild should be cooked before eating, because that helps to destroy any compounds in them that might be mildly toxic. But be aware that any amount of cooking won't make poisonous varieties any safer to eat. Unless you can definitely identify a fungus, you should never eat it. It's not worth the risk. And you need to be really sure, because some fungi that are poisonous are very similar in appearance to certain edible varieties. They can easily be mistaken for each other. So, having said all that, fungi are delicious when they're freshly picked, and although they are only moderately nutritious, they do contain minerals which the body needs. I'll move on now to leafy plants, which are generally...
That is the end of section 2. You now have half a minute to check your answers.
Section 3. Mr. Jackson, who feels that he is physically unfit, is consulting with his doctor about his health condition. Before you listen to their conversation, you have a chance to read questions 21 to 24. Now please listen to the recording and answer questions 21 to 24.
Well, Mr. Jackson, the first and important thing I have to tell you is that there is really nothing seriously wrong with you. Physically, that is. My very thorough re-examination and the analyst's report show that basically you are very fit. Yes, very fit.
So, why is it, Doctor, that I'm always so nervy, tense, ready to jump on anybody? My wife, children, colleagues.
I think your condition has a lot to do with, shall we call it, way of life, habits?
Way of life? Habits?
Yes. Now tell me, Mr. Jackson, you smoke, don't you?
Yes, I'm afraid I do, Doctor.
And rather heavily, I imagine.
Well, yes. I smoke, about 40, 50 a day, I suppose.
You should do your best to stop, you know.
Yes, I see. But, it won't be the first time. I've tried to give up smoking several times, but it's no good.
You see, 50 a day is overdoing it, you must admit. You must cut down at least that. Ah, yes. I know that when you're feeling tense, you probably feel that a cigarette relaxes you. But in the long run, I do advise you to make a real effort to quit smoking.
Of course, but, well, it's easy to say give it up or cut it down, but, oh, you know.
Well, in my opinion, you have no choice. Either you make a real effort or there's no real chance of your feeling better. You see, well, obviously I could prescribe some kind of tranquilizer, but would that help? I'd prefer, and I'm quite sure you'll agree, I'd prefer to see you really back to normal, not just seemingly so. And that's my reason for asking you several more questions about your other habits.
Right.
Now you have a chance to read questions 25 to 30. As you listen to more of their conversation, answer questions 25 to 30.
Your eating habits, for example. What do you eat normally, during a normal day?
Yes, well, I'm a good eater. Yes, I'd say I'm a good eater. Now let's see. Up at 8 in the morning, and my wife has a good breakfast ready.
A good breakfast.
The usual. A cereal followed by bacon and eggs with fried bread and perhaps a tomato or two. Then toast and marmalade, all washed down with a couple of cups of tea. Yes, I really enjoy my breakfast.
Yes, I can see you do, but I'd advise you to eat rather less. We'll come to that later. Go on.
Then lunch. No, first brunch. A cup of coffee and a bun at 11. Lunch has to be quick, because there's so much to do in the office about that time, so I have a pint and a sandwich in the pub. All very hurried.
Try to be in less of a hurry.
But I make up for it in the evening. I get home at about 7. Dinner's around about 8. Yes, my wife's an excellent cook. Excellent. It's usually some meat dish, and we like spaghetti as a first course. Spaghetti, a meat dish, cheese, sweet. But then, at the end of the day, shall we say, then I begin to feel on edge again. Most evenings after dinner we read or watch TV, but I get this terrible feeling of tension.
Well, I'm sorry to have to say this because you obviously enjoy your food, but I really do recommend that you eat less, and secondly, that you eat more healthily. Instead of having that enormous breakfast, for example, try to be content with fruit juice and some cereal.
I see, but
11's right. Well, that's all right, but lunch should be more leisurely. Remember, your health is at stake, not your job. As for dinner, I'd advise you to eat a soup, perhaps, with a salad. A salad followed by some fruit.
But my wife's cooking
is superb, granted. And she probably enjoys preparing delicious meals for you. If you like, I'll have a word with your wife.
No, that won't be necessary. Thanks just the same, Doctor, but no.
That is the end of section 3. You now have 30 seconds to check your answers.
Now turn to Section 4. Section 4. You will hear part of a further education lecture on marine biology. First, you have some time to look at questions 31 to 36. Now listen carefully and answer questions 31 to 36.
Good morning everyone, and welcome to another further education lecture on marine biology. Recently we looked at the coelacanth, which people thought had become extinct millions of years ago. Today we are looking at another inhabitant of the deep, which we're pretty sure is extinct, though some people still think it exists. I think most people would hope it's extinct, as we are talking about the largest predator that ever lived on Earth. It is called Carcharodon megalodon, or just the megalodon. Megalodon was an ancient shark that may have been 12 metres long, or even more. There are a few scientists who estimate that it could have been up to 50 or 100 feet, which is 15 or 31 metres long. This is about 3 times as long as the great white shark, but this is only an estimate made from many fossilised teeth and a few fossilised vertebrae that have been found. These giant teeth are the size of a man's hand. No other parts of this ancient shark are found, as shark fossils are extremely rare, because sharks have no bones, only cartilage which does not fossilise well. Their teeth, however, are very hard. They are made of a bone-like material coated with hard enamel, and they fossilise very well, so we can only guess at what it looked like. Since Megalodon's teeth are very similar to the teeth of the great white shark, it is thought that Megalodon may have looked like a huge, streamlined version of the great white shark. Megalodon teeth are similar to those of the great white shark, but are much bigger, thicker, and with finer serrations. Megalodon's jaws could open 6 feet wide and 7 feet high. The jaws were loosely attached by ligaments and muscles to the skull, opening extremely wide in order to swallow enormous objects. It could easily swallow a large great white shark whole. Unlike most sharks, Megalodon's teeth were probably located in rows which rotated into use as they were needed. Most sharks have about 3 to 5 rows of teeth at any time. The front set does most of the work. The first 2 rows are used for obtaining prey. The other rows rotate into place as they are needed. As teeth are lost, broken or worn down, they are replaced by new teeth. Megalodon may have had hundreds of teeth at one time. It did not chew its food like we do, but gulped it down whole in very large chunks. Megalodon's diet probably consisted mostly of whales. Sharks eat about 2% of their body weight each day, which is a bit less than a human being eats. Since most sharks are cold-blooded, they don't have to eat as much proportionally as we eat. It was during the Miocene era that the mammalian order Cetacea, whales, reached its highest diversity and abundance. Almost every known family of toothed and baleen whale is known from the end of the Miocene. Large whale vertebrae and flipper bones have been found with large bite marks made by serrated teeth that match the teeth of Megalodon. From such evidence, paleontologists have surmised a predator-prey relationship of the Megalodon with large whales.
You now have some time to look at questions 37 to 40. Now listen to the rest of the marine biology lecture and answer questions 37 to 40.
Megalodon lived from roughly 25 to 1.6 million years ago, during the Miocene and Pliocene epochs. It is now extinct, but the exact time of its extinction is hotly debated, as some people believe that this enormous shark could still exist today. Almost everyone who has investigated the possible existence of the great megalodon realises that if it is extinct, it has only recently occurred in the geological record, as close as 10,000 years ago. Zoological history has proved that very large animals can remain hidden from modern science, especially in our planet's underexplored ocean depths. So, if the famous coelacanth, the fish thought to be extinct for 60 million years, can be found alive and well as it was last century, why not push our giant white shark up a mere 10,000? Has Megalodon died out, or has one already appeared? There is a well-known sighting report from Australia. In the year 1918, crayfishmen at Port Stephens refused to go to sea to their regular fishing grounds in the vicinity of Broughton Island for several days. The men had been at work on the deep water fishing grounds when an immense shark of almost unbelievable proportions put in an appearance, attacking pot after pot containing many crayfish, and taking pots, mooring lines and all. On returning unscathed, the men were all unanimous that this shark was something the like of which they had never dreamed of. And bear in mind that these were men who were used to the sea and all sorts of weather and all sorts of sharks as well. They all said the shark was as long as the wharf of their harbour, about 115 feet. They were all familiar with whales, which they had often seen passing at sea, but this was a vast shark. They had seen its terrible head, which was at least as long as the roof on the wharf shed at Nelson's Bay. The sighting was never repeated, and it is impossible to say whether it was a hoax or not. Putting childlike dreaming aside, however, leaves us with the fact that whether or not the huge megalodon is alive today is debatable only on theoretical grounds. Despite thousands of giant fossilised teeth, no matter how fresh they might be, on this sighting there is not much to go on.
That is the end of section 4. You will now have half a minute to check your answers.